Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin.
And I'm John Berman. The breaking news at this hour, Jacksonville, brace yourselves. Georgia and South Carolina, listen very carefully. An update just in from the National Hurricane Center on where Hurricane Matthew is headed next and just how much damage it could bring. This Category 3 storm is still moving up the east coast of Florida. We have a first look now at some of the destruction from 120-mile-per-hour winds and drenching rain. But the major concern right now, according to everyone, straight up to the President of the United States, life-threatening storm surge. We're talking 7 to 11 feet of water.
So it's the wind, it's the rain, and it's the surge. But it is also this with the storm. It's the time. It is moving, for anyone in its path, excruciatingly slowly along the coast, up the coastline. What is concerning forecasters right now is that the storm could shift at a moment's notice west. A slight shift west means a whole lot more damage, a whole lot more people in the threat path. We're standing by for an update from South Carolina's Governor Nikki Haley to give us kind of the latest on how they're preparing for Matthew, what they're seeing right now, what she wants to see. She was very blunt with her messaging yesterday. We will bring you that as soon as she takes to the lectern right there. We also have correspondents fanned out in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina all along the hurricane's path.
First, we're going to be joined by CNN meteorologist Chad Myers live in the Extreme Weather Center. Chad, a brand new update from the National Hurricane Center. What have you learned?
The Hurricane Center just keeps the eye offshore far enough to make it a non-catastrophic wind event. Now, that's not taking out anything for surge yet or flooding, because there'll be spots with over 10 inches of rain. But what we know at this hour is that the outer eye wall is hitting Daytona Beach. There's the eye. It doesn't really connect much here. Big squall area there. This is the eye, and the eye is now hitting the beach. That's a 100-mile-per-hour wind. That's a 100-mile-per-hour gust. Into Palm Coast, into St. Augustine, those winds are going to be between 80 and 90 miles per hour as long as this eye stays on shore or just offshore. Here's the difference. Let me draw the coast. It's kind of hard to see. There's the coast of Florida. This is the track of the storm. Now, if Florida would be like this, it'd be crossing the coast and right on shore. So Florida, the angle of Florida's coast is actually helping the amount of damage be slightly less as the coast moves away. The storm is trying to move away as well. Here's the animation for you here. Now, there's still going to be all of this water piling up in Jacksonville. This is what we're worried about. Also, as the storm continues to try to turn on up toward Brunswick and Tybee Island, all of that water is going to get into that corner where the atmosphere here, where the whole coastline decides to turn just a little bit here. Now, let me take you to the look at this on the floor. This is what we were concerned about yesterday. Would the storm take a left-hand track or would it take a right-hand track? The left-hand track would have put it 20 miles farther west, and guys, that would have been $2 billion, if not more, dollars worth of damage compared to if it was on the right side of the eye or the right side of the track, that cone that we talk about. So far, the Hurricane Center had it right down the middle. I don't think you could have made a better forecast, keeping it slightly offshore for a while, the eye wall slightly onshore, but not the center of the eye, which would have made the onshore flow so significantly different, so significantly more damaging with those onshore flows and those onshore winds than what we have right now. So far, so good. The forecast right on the money for the Hurricane Center.
Right on the money, but one thing that we've heard from local officials, from you, all the way up to President Obama at this point, is the big threat is not the wind right now, as you've just noted.
That's right.
It is the storm surge. Lay out why that is such a threat and where it's such a threat.
Because as the water is pushed this way and this way and this way, it's like, and I used this analogy earlier, but I'll use it again because it works. If you're trying to cool off your cup of coffee and you blow on the top to cool it off, the water kind of piles up on the opposite side of where you are. So the waves kind of push it to the other side of the coffee cup. Well, think about a 100-mile-per-hour breath blowing on a coffee cup. It just blows all the water on land. Now, if there was no land there wouldn't be a surge. The water would just go around and around and around. But because the land is going to get in the way and the low population areas, the low country of Georgia and South Carolina, ramp up so slowly that water can get into those marshes and eventually on up into the creeks and streams that feed those marshes and into the communities that lie on those creeks and streams themselves, like Shem Creek, or if you're on up into Tybee, all those little creeks that are just to the west of Tybee, all that will be flooded with 9 to 11 feet of storm surge this afternoon.
Yeah, and 9 feet is the first floor of any building, so
Yeah,
that's why that's so significant. Chad, thanks so much. Chad's keeping an eye on the track on where the storm is. Right now, we'll get back to Chad.
All right, one of the places that's really just been getting hammered over the last several hours, Daytona Beach, Florida. Our Boris Sanchez there. It's been an adventure for you, Boris, all morning long. Tell us what you're seeing, what the conditions are right now.
Yeah, John, we had quite a close call this morning. First, I want to paint a picture of where we are right now. We're in a parking dock that's adjacent to our hotel, and there is all kinds of debris on the street. You can see the roof of that building has started to come off, and some of the roofing is blocking the intersection right now. We've also seen large metal sheets that have been riding down the street for several blocks. There's also palm trees, if you could see them in the distance over there, that are totally bent over. This is starting to be the eye wall of the storm, as you heard Chad mention. Earlier today, we were standing at the lobby of the hotel and watching debris flow through the street. At one point, as we were standing out there, we heard a large crash in the awning above us, and as we started to move out of the way, a huge chunk of metal crashed to the ground. It had to weigh at least several hundred pounds, and we were immediately startled and moved inside. Shortly after that, where we were standing, a piece of wood went right through the awning and landed literally just footsteps away from where we were. You're actually seeing some video of the damage here in Daytona from Rob Ray right now. The situation here is extremely dangerous on the street. I have seen several people walking through this earlier today. There was one guy that was driving around like a maniac this morning. Fortunately, he's been arrested. For the most part, though, it appears that people have heeded the warnings and they've stayed inside their homes. Another note, as far as power goes, we know that almost 5 million people have been affected in terms of their electricity in their homes at this point. Our lights have been flickering on and off all day. The street signs right behind me are off right now. They were on just a moment ago, so I'm not sure if the lights went out on our block or just on this stretch of street. I did see earlier today a power pole that was showing sparks. It was flickering. We've seen some power surges throughout the day.
Boris?
The situation here quickly changing drastically. John?
Boris, we're going to jump in right now. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is briefing on her state preparations. Let's listen.
Who I will now refer to as Rockstar John.
Thank you, Governor. Well, as of 11 o'clock this morning, there's now a hurricane warning in effect for the entire coast of South Carolina, in addition to a storm surge warning in effect for the entire coast of South Carolina. Matthew is still a Category 3 hurricane with winds of 120 miles per hour, and it's currently brushing the east coast of Florida. The latest track from the National Hurricane Center has shifted a little bit closer to the South Carolina coast and a little bit farther north, closer to the Myrtle Beach area as well, so that's some cause for concern. The storm will start working up toward the South Carolina coast tonight. It's expected to move just along, potentially even making landfall somewhere along the South Carolina coast sometime during the day tomorrow, and then start moving away later tomorrow night. So given this track, we have significant concerns in terms of impacts to the state. I think one of the greatest impacts would be the threat for storm surge. Right now, we're looking at the potential for disastrous and life-threatening storm surge inundation along the coast. It's especially true for the central and southern part of the coast, down, across Charleston, down near Beaufort. In a worst-case scenario, if this storm makes landfall, storm surge inundation, so that's how high the water will get above normally dry ground, could be over 8 feet. That is a lot of water. The storm surge is not going to just be at the coast. The storm surge can extend miles inland. So it doesn't matter that you don't have a beachfront home. You could be impacted by the storm surge well inland. You need to be aware of that. In addition, we expect significant damage to coastal structures due to the combination of very high inundation, battering waves, and high tides. Some of the more vulnerable areas, we have Defusky Island, Hilton Head Island, Hunting Island, Folly Beach, Wild Dunes, Edisto Beach, even places like Daniel Island could all be impacted by the storm surge. Roads in and out of barrier islands will become impassable due to the surge. If you don't evacuate now, you will likely become stranded. In addition to the surge threat, heavy rainfall is going to be an issue. For coastal areas, as much as 8 to 14 inches of rainfall is expected, and even as you head in toward the Midlands, we still could see 3 to 6 inches of rain. Because of that, a flash flood watch is in effect, pretty much from Rock Hill down through Aiken and all points east of there. So heavy rainfall is another concern for us that could result in flash flooding. You take a place like downtown Charleston, where you